Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. How you all doing out there? I hope you've all had a lovely evening or weekend, I should say. This codeine's still in full force, so my brain is going haywire as usual, but don't worry. Ace Jace is out there, Holly England is out there, Briar54 is out there, Juicy and Lucy is out there, Tracy Tourism's out there. Let's see who else is coming out there. I'm not seeing anyone logging in at the moment from SpewTube, but I am sure they get there soon. Chimbrook 2, Juicy and Lucy, English 54, Tracy. Let's have a look, see how many other people have got in there. Apologies for not logging in quick enough, but I was getting down the stairs. Mark is fine. 5B5. Don't forget to give me a 5B5. If you are tuning in from YouTube, don't forget to come across to Rumble. I am trying to get my head around something else, and I've got to take the computer up after the show and have a proper little look at it to see what I'm supposed to be doing. But they've launched a new transmission program on it. And they said, why haven't you gone over to it? And I said, because it's too fucking complicated. Like, it's not nothing. They think it's just a port over. It's completely different. So I'll look at that later. Let me have a quick look. As everyone will see, tonight, I've put a number of videos just to YouTube with, and there's a reference to Enoch Powell, right? And I think it's important that people understand exactly these words, right? Because he was asked a question and he was being questioned, and I'm going to show a clip of it, a longer clip of it. And he said of us when he was challenged because they voted in 1975 to stay in the EEC, right? And I personally believe it was a massive fix. Right, so let me just get rid of some of this stuff that I've got hanging around my ankles at the moment. I believe it was a massive fix in the same way as the other one, or there's a lot of skullduggery going on, right? But he was then told, you know, Oxford is voted to go in, Cambridge or Wiltshire or whatever voted to go in because it was done in regions. And he said, they still think, this is Enoch Powell, this is exactly his words, they still think they will be a nation. They still think they will govern and tax, legislate for themselves. They are mistaken, always the politest of people, but they will learn, right? And that was Enoch Powell. Now, some of the things I've been hearing in the background, and I keep hearing this about Margaret Thatcher, and all of the things that she did, and she was fantastic, and she didn't want to go in the EU. She was actually campaigning to go into. She was part of that campaign group to stay in the EEC. So I want everyone to understand that, right? She was part of that group. The difference between her and Barbara Castle, probably the slightly older generation will understand who Barbara Castle was, but she was a northern lady, fierce Labour, and majorly did not take elocution lessons. In other words, what I'm saying, that wonderful northern accent used to come out. And she stood up for the people and wanted to leave. Tony Benn is another one. Didn't want to stay in it. Labour at that time knew what it was going to do to us, and I've got a couple of them videos, not a couple, quite a bit of it, because I do want people to understand that Nigel Farage without any doubts whatsoever. Enoch Powell would not allow Farage anywhere near him, right? Enoch Powell knew that Farage was wrong, right? And again, I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. I want everyone to understand that Rupert Lowe was very good friends, I believe, with Jimmy Goldsmith. And Jimmy Goldsmith is one of my Jewish heroes. Let me put it this way. Even though I think he was French and he lived in Monaco, he was a financier. It's a shame about his sons going pear-shaped, but he himself put his hand in his pocket, and this is going back 40 years ago, I think, with the I think it was a referendum party it was called, and he paid for a documentary, and he paid for a CD-ROM to be posted through everyone's door so they could watch the documentary. And in them days, it cost him personally £100,000, right? Which isn't cheap. Even at many of it today's standards, I don't know how many millions it would cost, but it was a lot of money, right? And Jimmy Goldsmith, as a financier, so a lot of people have a pop. There are good Jews out there, right? And another one. This goes back well in excess of a century. There was another one called Samuel Lewis, and he was a financier and he was a money lender, but he only lent money to the aristocracy. And I think I've told people this before. But he used to charge them ridiculous amounts of interest, something like 40 and 50% interest, right? And from the money that he charged interest from them, he used that to create a trust where he built housing for the poor in London. And I'm talking about the early 1900s, and then obviously in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s. And there was a place in London called well, he called it the Buildings, Fulham Broadway, Lewis Trust Buildings. And those properties, for the time, were the state-of-the-art luxury. They had hot and cold running water. They had, obviously, inside toilets. They was heated. They had gas. Everything that you can think of, they had, right? They were state-of-the-art. But if you earned more than, I'm sure it was either a shilling or 5 shillings a week. My dad would tell me what the figure was again. I'd have to ask him. You weren't allowed to move in there, and you had to be on a very low salary. My dad lived there. It was where I was actually born, in them actual flats, right? So if anyone thinks I'm having a pop at Jews, I'm certainly not, because Jimmy Goldsmith, Samuel Lewis, there's many others I can talk of. Dr. Zev, who we followed each other on Twitter. During lockdown, we was talking to each other. It was one of the things that I believe triggered Twitter to take my account down, right? So just to make sure everyone's aware of that. But I am going to go through some of this stuff and start talking about this. Right, so that said, there are bad Jews. And it's not just been mentioned by me, it's been mentioned by quite a few other people out there. And one of the people that have mentioned it is a guy called Steve Bannon, who actually is on camera saying to the media and to a particular Jewish media group, it's Jews that's financing the invasion at our border, right? So he said, I support Israel, but when are you going to support the USA? You're still flooding people over our border, right? at our southern border. So I'm just going to make sure everyone's aware of that. You can't. All I'm doing is just get so people understand what I'm saying. But what I'm going to do now, hopefully, if I can find my little twirler to go over to this side. Hopefully, I'm going to show. So what you're going to see now on the screen, if I can pull it over, is Robin Day. There's a few things I want to show you, but this one's on your screen at the moment. Give me a 5x5 if you hear it. This is the whole thing is for 13 minutes. Tell me if you want to watch the whole 13 minutes, or do you want me to start at the beginning? So it's a 13. There's a few of these, but I think it's important to try and get them all together and everyone, because we all sort of know where we're coming from. We're being grifted in a big way. That and there's one particular one that I want to show you, where Lord McAlpine, whose family owned the Dorchester Hotel, they was holding private meetings in the Dorchester Hotel where Conservative, Labour and Lib Dems was at the senior level was all conspiring together against the people. So the real, literally the real Uni Party, and that would, what they was doing would have been unlawful under the English Bill of Rights. But not only that, there's elements to that video that I think people haven't seen, and one of them is Margaret Thatcher with an EU jumper on, right, telling people how they want to join the EU. So I'm just going to make sure everyone gets that. And you can tell me, do you want to see the whole 13 minutes of this or just part? I can stop it and start it, which is what I'm going to be doing.
I see that, Mr. Powell.
Yes, well, I've got with me one of the leading no men, Mr. Enoch Powell, who is smiling as if he was one of the victors, and Mr. Jim Pryor, who's got his usual cheerful but phlegmatic countenance. Mr. Powell, there wasn't much point in asking people, advising people to vote Labour from the point of view of staying in or coming out of the common market, was there?
I'm always in favour of a question being reopened as important as this. It has been reopened, and now we have a provisional result which takes us on to the next stage.
Why do you say a provisional result, and what is the next stage?
Oh, I'm just relying on the government's official statement.
Can I read it for you?
Yes, our continued
membership will depend on the continuing assent of Parliament.
That's the one.
Yes.
And since Parliament will be continuously re-elected by the electorate, then this is an ongoing debate.
Yes, but you, with respect, Mr. Powell, you have picked out one sentence from a passage which deals with the constitutional position.
That's right.
And not with the practical position, because are you suggesting that from now on, you and others who feel like you should continue a parliamentary struggle to get Britain out?
But of course, this is like September 1938. In October 1938, I'm sure that the vast majority of Neville Chamberlain had gone to the country. He would have swept the country for an act of abnegation. But the very same people, within 12 months, when they saw behind the facade, when they penetrated to the realities, stood up to fight for the continued existence of our nation. And that's what will happen.
But you're saying that this is a kind of Munich?
Yes, I am.
I see. And
you seem surprised.
And when do you see our 1940 coming, when we're going to stand alone?
Well, let's have 1939 first, when we decide that we have to fight. You see, I simply do not believe, although, and I make no complaint of the pro-marketeers, particularly people like Edward Heath and Peter Kirk, they've been beyond criticism in that they have made it perfectly clear that to remain part of a common market is to renounce national status for Britain. They say the nation state is obsolete and we are to recognize it.
Who are you going to get to support you in your continuing parliamentary struggle to get Britain?
So just to make sure we're clear on this, the EU have always stated, the EU or the EEC, the five presidents report, they've always stated that the nation state, right, is dead. That is why you must come out of the British Union, right? Because the British Union is no different to the European Union, is no different to the USSR, right? And you need to go back to nation states.
Out of the common market, Mr. Powell.
Well, as the House of Commons, week by week, has to debate the consequences of being in the common market, it will, as it tends to do, filter through to wider and wider areas that they were rightly told by people like Edward Heath that this did in fact mean that they would become a province in a new state.
Well,
now, I do not believe that when that...
See, he's used the word province, right? The Jesuits and the Holy Roman Empire regard the British Isles, Great Britain, as a province of Rome.
Is realised that it will be assented to.
I'll come to Mr. Whitelaw, who's down at the Waldorf Hotel listening to us in just a moment. But
Well,
may I
I've got
put one
something by
point?
Mr. Whitelaw,
May
curiously.
I put one point to you, Mr. Powell? That I remember you 2 or 3 years ago, when you were still in the Conservative Party, at the party conference in Brighton, predicting with total conviction and certainty that this country would not go into the common market. May I suggest to you that your prediction now is no more right than that one was?
You have two events, if I may say so, slightly confused. One was the Conservative Party conference where I said that I would never assent to the act of abnegation involved in Britain joining.
He's used a crucial constitutional word. He said, I will never assent to this, right? The reason why Article 61 in 2001 was brought in by the Magna Carta Society and John Hurst and others was because the Queen, right, via letter patent and via a nod through in Parliament, was allowing the
the common market. And a meeting in East Ham in September 1971, when I said it will not happen. I am still convinced that it will not happen. I am still convinced that the people of this country cannot be absorbed into a European state.
May I just point out that Wiltshire has said yes, and Oxfordshire has said yes. And could I point out to Mr. Powell that he did say, as he has confirmed, that we will not go into the common market. And we did go into the common market. And are you not just as wrong now as you were then?
No, sir. The British people do not mean it because they still have not been able to credit the implications of being in the common market. They still think they will be a nation. They still think they will govern and tax and legislate for themselves. They are mistaken. It's not the fault of many of the pro-marketeers that they are mistaken, but it is a thing so incredible to them that I'm not inclined to blame them overmuch. But they will learn.
Mr. Whitelaw, have you been listening to us?
Yes, I have.
Well, now, what do you say to that? A parliamentary struggle led or perhaps solely carried on by Mr. Powell to get Britain out of the common market on the basis of this clear and unequivocal statement in the government pamphlet that our membership will depend on the continuing assent of Parliament.
Well, Enoch Powell, of course, is entitled, as always, to say what he intends to do. And I don't dispute what he will do, because I'm sure that is exactly the line he will take. What I would hope is that now that the British people have voted, or looked like voting anyway, overwhelmingly for staying in the European Economic Community, we can put all the uncertainty of the past behind us. And we can now go forward as constructive partners in that community, sharing with our partners exactly how that community should develop in the future to the benefit of all its peoples.
Do you think, Mr. Whitelaw, that this common market campaign has perhaps had some effect in reopening the question of how the Conservative Party should be led? Because many people are remarking on the tremendous personal resurgence and revival of popularity of Mr. Heath. May I point out that Durham has said yes, and come back to the point that people are saying Mr. Heath is making a tremendous political comeback, and who can know what will happen?
Well, of course, the first thing I think one ought to say is that the Conservative Party as a whole has overwhelmingly supported Britain staying in the European Economic Community. Indeed, an enormous part of the result and what has been achieved is due to those people who normally support the Conservative Party.
So you're
I am
saying that-
delighted. I am delighted about that. I think it's very important indeed. Margaret Thatcher made it perfectly clear that's what she wanted our party to do. That is what our party has done.
That's
Certainly, Ted Heath has had an enormous success in this campaign. He is the person who, as Prime Minister, took us into Europe. I was proud to be one of his cabinet ministers at that time. He did it, and he has shown to the country the great conviction he had behind doing it.
So you're
I think that is
saying,
an enormous achievement.
So you're saying, Mr. Whitelaw, that the chairman of the Conservative Backbenchers Committee, Mr. Edward Buchan, was talking tripe the other night.
Mr. Buchanan must talk for himself.
Was he talking sense, in your view?
No.
Do you think he can remain as chairman of the Conservative Backbenchers Committee when he makes such a remark at such a critical moment?
That is entirely up to the 1922 Committee, of whom, of course, I must remind you that I am...
Constitutional political point, Mr. Powell. Would you agree with that?
I thought it was an interesting view coming from a member of a government of which not one individual resigned, although they reversed the principal policies on which they were elected in 1970. But no one, I think, should propose to tell another politician when he should resign. And after all, the Labour government, the Labour Party, did say that as a government, they would accept the outcome, whatever that might be and however interpreted, of the referendum. Nevertheless, I think it is very difficult.
I hit the buttons and it's not coming off. Right, can you hear me now? No sign, can't hear you, DD. Staff change muted. Right, can you all hear me now? Hopefully you should hear me. Right, if it does it again, right, I've closed a load of pages down, but I'm going to take you on to a few other things. Everyone, sorry I'm late, no worries. You might want to see the earlier parts of this, but let's see if I can push this forward.
On the grounds that they would at least have a choice about remaining in the community. now that they've had this choice and now that they've given their verdict, what is the point of having asked for that they have this choice if now that they've had it, you say you're not going to accept it?
Well, I'm sorry that their verdict is their provisional verdict. Provisional, as we both agree in a constitutional sense, is so far what it is. But I certainly can't regret that the question was not suppressed and regarded as a totally closed one, as it would have been if a Conservative...
Just to let you know, he doesn't stop talking about the Constitution. He don't stop talking about this is unconstitutional, right? And nor did Tony Benn, by the way.
Conservative majority had been returned in February 1974.
Well, I think Mr. Powell has done a great deal of damage, both to the British cause of trying to remain in Europe and keep in Europe and get on with the job. And, of course, I think he's done a great deal of damage as well to trying to get Europe understand that Britain wanted to remain. I mean, if Mr. Powell had not made his speech about I think we would have had a Conservative government today, and I think we would have controlled inflation a lot better than we've been able to control it.
Of course, Mr. Powell's view would be that this would be a Conservative government which was treacherous to its principles announced at the previous election.
No, we're not. I don't think that's a different point.
I don't think that's the same point at all. But what I do think is the point, and that is that Mr. Powell told people to vote Labour in order to try and keep us out of the common market. And he failed to do, by voting Labour, they have failed to keep us out of the common market. It has been shown abundantly now by all the returns we've had, and I think returns will go on that way, that the British want to remain a member of the community and see their future within the community. I think it's time that Mr. Powell shut up for a bit.
What about that?
Well, what is important is that the rest of the common market should recognize the constitutional fact about this country, that unlike countries with a written constitution, our continued membership, I again quote, and these actual words were in the Conservative White Paper of 1971, our continued membership will depend on the continuing assent of Parliament. There can be no final decision by the British people to renounce their sovereignty.
But then you mustn't argue
that... I've got to go, if you don't mind, Jim, because we've got a number of results in Salop and one in Yorkshire.
Right, so I'm going to go on to the next. There's a few things I want to show you. This one is especially another one, right? Just listen to his words.
One must never despair of one's country. One must never give up. And I believe that if there is if we stay temporarily in the common market after June, if the government after June doesn't say, well, then we must negotiate ourselves out, there will be such a revulsion in the following year, 2 years or 3 years, when people then do perceive the reality of the sacrifice, that we're not for keeps in the common market, because it's not the nature of Britain, as I believe it is, to be able to belong to that kind of structure.
Right. So what he was saying there was, don't matter what happens, never surrender. Never surrender your sovereignty, never surrender your rights. And on a number of occasions, he talks about liberty, right, and freedom. And our Constitution forbids this. The Glorious Revolution decided that with the English Bill of Rights. It decided that with a supremacy clause, right? So I want everyone just to understand. And then, well, I'm going to take you through some of these. Hopefully the camera don't go off. If it goes off again, my camera goes off. I'm just going to keep playing them because I think they're important. They're important. The links are all in. The links are all in. Let me see if this is the one. This one is for... I'll do this one first. Right, and we'll share it. Hopefully this is in the right part.
I sound like it.
Well, I was wondering, because in fact, having said that you didn't want to go into the statistics, you were tending to go into the statistical facts.
No. I said, look at your past experience, which we all of us know.
I also wonder whether or not this sudden entrance of Mr. Buchanan onto the scene is not a last desperate ploy, possibly, as it might be seen by Mr. Jenkins's side, to activate a losing side.
But why should a man who has that background and experience and position in the Conservative Party, with nothing that I can see to gain, take the most effective opportunity of declaring what must be his conscientious opinion, and there's no one better placed to form it, on the balance of opinion in his own party. A man only does that under pressure of great internal people of this country, is profoundly against submerging this country into a new organization which will gradually remove their control and the significant...
I will guarantee you, and put any money on it you like, if Enoch Powell was alive today, he would say England must leave the Union. Northern Ireland must be independent, but are still under the English Bill of Rights as a protectorate of England. Scotland will be Scotland. We would give a referendum to Wales, but it's because the unionists and which is another word for globalism, another word for collectivism, right? It's really important that people understand the antithesis to that is independence, complete independence of the nations, right?
Of Britain as a nation.
Britain's prosperity and Britain's influence in the world depends on our cooperating and not trying to act in isolation in the modern world. If by chance the vote were known, we would come out. Our export, our investment plans would all be put into a state of very considerable confusion, and I think we would be taking a step into the unknown.
And we are winding up this special first report coverage of the major issues in the referendum with a discussion between two of the most influential protagonists in the whole common market debate, Mr. Roy Jenkins and Mr. Enoch Powell.
Are you all right with me running with these? Because there's another one after this that's got Margaret Thatcher in it. And it shows people directly that Margaret Thatcher was all in for the EEC, for the what they called the common market. The whole thing was a lie from start to finish. And she even called Edward Heath the master.
Gentlemen, you've both argued all the main points in this great debate many times over in the course of the past few weeks, conclusively proving that the other side is wrong and that your side is right. And I think the viewer may still be just a little baffled about this conflict of total certainty. So I wonder if you would take this last opportunity of convincing First Report viewers that yours is the case to vote for. Mr. Powell.
Who, me?
Yes.
Well, I think that the most remarkable thing that's happened in the last 24 hours, and it's very relevant to your question, is the declaration by Edward Buchanan that, in his opinion, and who should know better, something like half the Conservative members at heart would vote no, and for all we know, since the ballot is secret, are voting no.
But Mrs. Thatcher, the leader of the party, says this is nonsense.
Well, she's got to say that, hasn't she? She would be in a position if she didn't say that. So I'm afraid that is evidence that we have to discount. And indeed, I hope to contribute later today some positive evidence which shows that Mr. Buchanan, who ought to know and who has nothing to gain by this disclosure, is broadly correct. Now, this is very important because it shows how misleading the whole apparent weight of authority.
Just to make sure everyone's clear on this, Roy Jenkins was the one who got through Parliament by stealth a type of ultra-vires laws, right, that initiated some of the laws, certainly about 50 laws, that were not allowed to be passed. And the reason for that was because they had created a law that extracted the Crown from the process of enacting laws, which is ultra-vires and unconstitutional. One of them was to fight like the Local Finance Act, which is how you're now being charged for council tax.
Which they've attempted to bring to bear upon the electors in this campaign has been millions of loyal Conservatives going out tomorrow to put their cross against yes, because they believed that consistently that was what their well-known representatives and their party had stood for year in and year out, suddenly told in circumstances which make it very difficult to doubt that that's not so at all. That on the contrary, this was a dragoon decision in 1972, and that they, the electors, are being dragoons still. Now, this is material because, in my view, this is a matter of instinct. This is a matter of the instinct of the ordinary people of this country. And I'm certain that that instinct is profoundly against submerging this country into a new organization, which is destined to become a new state, which will gradually remove their control over the way in which they are governed and the significance of Parliament and the significance of Britain as a nation. And I think this is, in the last resort, a matter of the heart. We may argue, but in the end, I respect the man who says, I wish to see a future for myself and my children in a great European state. I've always said this. I respect him, provided he says so plainly. I respect him for it. And we have to judge by our instinct. And that is the only reliable guide for the electors tomorrow.
Mr. Jenkins.
I don't think Mr. Buchanan's all that significant, but I don't want to get involved in these Conservative Party affairs. I think that we should judge this. I think the people will judge it on a combination of heart and head. I think that's how all great issues should be decided, and I think this is a great issue, and I hope we'll have a heavy poll to decide it, and decide it decisively.
Does your heart take you in a different direction from Mr. Powell's heart?
Yes, it does. It does. My heart takes me quite strongly, as well as I'd like to think my head on this issue. What I think, looking back over the campaign, is that the statistics and the counter-statistics will be forgotten and buried pretty soon. But the basic issues will remain with us for the rest of our lifetime. And the basic issue, as I've seen it throughout and see it now, is my conviction that Britain's prosperity and Britain's influence in the world depends on our cooperating and not trying to act in isolation in the modern world. And what has emerged absolutely clearly are two things. First, that there is no alternative group of countries with whom we can cooperate. All our friends in the world want us to stay in. And it's a question of staying in, not going in. We are in. And secondly,
we were taken in to the EEC in 1972 illegally. That's why they had to hold this referendum. But even the referendum was unlawful. You cannot go against the English Bill of Rights and the Supremacy Clause, right? If they don't like it, they should have said, we want a new settlement. But they didn't say that. Instead, they lied to the people. And the Fabians in particular, and there's a great video out there at the moment that I've been putting around. Maybe Tracy can put it up in the chat. It's a 10 or 15 minute video done recently by a guy who's gone through the Fabians, and he's explained the situation. On my website, dannydragon.co.uk, there are 3 blogs on there explaining exactly who the Fabians are and what they've been doing, right? I've got books on the Fabians here. People need to understand that the Fabians, the socialists, it's like having a socialist coin, a bit like the Talmud, but the socialist coin. And on one side, you've got the Fabians, and on the other side, you've got communists. But it is the same thing, and it is completely alien to the English way of life and to England, right? It's completely alien to England. That's the bit that we've got to get across to people. I am going to speak in a minute about something else, so it depends how long you want me to run this for. There's another really good one after this.
While the long-term effects can be very profound, and will be very profound over a period, there's also going to be a very sharp, short-term effect. If by chance the vote were no and we would come out, make no mistake about it, we would wake up in an economic climate next Monday morning, which I would regard as dangerous and a state of some confusion. Our export, our investment plans would all be put into a state of some very considerable confusion. I believe the job and the inflation prospect would immediately be worse. I believe
Jenkins says about the statistics. Price of food was increasing, and although our trade with the Commonwealth had fallen to a relatively small part.
Right, so there is another one I want to show you. Hopefully it's this one. But before I do, I'm gonna go back and show you some other elements of this. Let's see if this is the one I'm thinking of. There's a particular one that I'm trying to show you, which has got Margaret Thatcher in it, and it is important. I think that's the one, and I'm going to show that for longer. And it's got Tony Benn in it. All right, let me have a look and see if this other one is the one that I'm looking at as well, or is it that one? I've put links to all of them in there. Oh, that's the one that I need to show you. Which I will be showing you in a couple of minutes. Let me see if we can pull this forward. And then we're going to have a quick chat before I go into this. Let me have a look and see where I can. There it is. Right. The one I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes is this one. Right. Literally Margaret Thatcher with, in effect, an EU jumper on. Right. And in that video, she says, a couple of videos I watched earlier, she said some words, right? Stronger together, right? Which is a Soviet term. That's the Soviet Union saying that, right? Stronger together. So I want everyone to understand that. But before I do, I'm going to click off the share, stop sharing, and I'm going to speak to a couple of people, or everyone listening to this, because now there's enough. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to share, because the only people seeing this are via your shares. And don't forget to subscribe, right? We're going up, and the subscriptions are going up on Rumble. It's you getting that information out there. If you want me talking on any events, if you want me to talk to Restore, send them messages on their channel and say, why don't you speak to Graham Moore, right? There's a couple of things I wanted to say to people, and it is really important about Restore. I've seen, everyone should have seen it, there was evidence of some guy in Dorset. He's only 17 or 18. He's been put in charge of a Dorset area as a campaign manager. He's involved with the Social Democrat Party. My major point is that in a number of tweets he put out, he wanted Steve Laws, or suggested that he should be arrested for some of the comments that he's made on social media, and he should be sent to prison or whatever, right? Paraphrasing roughly what he said, he's called them neo-Nazis, right? Now, whether or not I completely agree with Steve Laws or not is not relevant to this. What is relevant is that Restore Britain believes in free speech and believes in our absolute right to freedom of expression, right, which is in these law books, freedom of speech, as long as the speech doesn't break the law. So you're not directly inciting violence, and you're not slandering someone, deliberately slandering someone, right? So the speech has to stay within defamation laws, right? And it has to stay within the realms. You can't absolutely start talking about, which I'm seeing a lot of, violence, etc. Why is it important? Because what worries me, so I don't mind the broad church. I don't even mind unionists being in Restore. As Enoch Powell stated, right, they'll learn. And it's only, I believe, what we are doing now with the English Constitution Society and the seminars is crucially important, because we're showing people we do have a constitution. We're showing people we do have a written constitution. We have the common law, and that is what the globalists fear most, because it's the ultimate social justice system in the world, which is why it's been adopted by the United States of America and most of the Commonwealth, right? The Commonwealth could still exist if it wanted to, even if we ended the Union. That's the bit that people don't get. So I want people to, if they can, contact Restore, because what I'm worried about, and this is strategic in nature, they're like going on a full frontal, right? So think of a military campaign and there's an army coming straight at you, you're going straight at them. But there's no one protecting the flanks of Restore, because everyone within Restore, bar none, right, is sitting there telling Rupert Lowe, we don't have a written constitution. We don't have any protections of the constitution. We don't have this. We don't have that. Parliament is sovereign. It can do what it likes. And there is no one that is working class and self-educated. And just to make sure I'm clear on this, Lord Denning, otherwise known as Tom to us, right, one of the greatest judges in English history, right, was to a large extent self-educated with either Greek or Latin, right, because they couldn't afford to do it. He had to get scholarships. Their family, they owned a business, right, a small business. It was a really small business, and they couldn't afford to send him there. But he ended up doing a mathematics degree, an advanced mathematics degree, a very high IQ, and an algebra degree. But by the way, used that in law, right? And he had to pay for that. So I want everyone to understand that Lord Denning, Tom, would have sat there and said to Rupert Lowe, right, listen, Rupert, we do have a constitution. It is largely written, and the people who are telling you that we don't are products of state education. They are products of the slow march through the institution. The barristers that he's relying on, the King's Counsels that he's relying on. David Starkey is professor in the University of Ordinary History, right? Somehow we need to get through to Rupert Lowe and his team. This is not me being negative to them, right? This is our last chance before, in my opinion, this goes kinetic. We are in a civil war. This is a direct attack on England, right? He needs to understand there are ways of dealing with this. And Rupert Lowe keeps talking about repeal this and repeal that and repeal this because he's being suckered by the slow march through the institution and these people that keep talking to him about repealing this and repealing that, right? You must abolish it as repugnant law and as ultra-vires because it conflicts with our constitution. It must be abolished. There is a strict reason for that in law. That means any stare decisis or any common law or any judgments made under that is abolished with it, right? Whereas if you repeal something, the biggest error we made, and I kept saying it to them people at the time and they would not listen. Listen, Nigel Farage, I've got his number on my phone, would not listen when I said to him, you must abolish the European Communities Act of 1972. You must not repeal it, right? Even Gerard Batten, who's on our side, right? And by the way, he's an English nationalist, wrote a book and he talks about repeal, right? People need to understand there is a major difference in law between the two types of removal of a law. It must be abolished, right? We need as many of you as possible. What I am absolutely worried about is that someone like me that has studied the law for so long, read the law, read real legal law books by absolute geniuses in the law. For Assent says in these books, Parliament is not sovereign, right? So once you start to understand, it isn't necessary for Rupert Lowe to believe that people are deliberately conning him. They're not. They are a product of the slow march through the institutions. They are a product of misinstruction, right? And yet he won't listen to someone who hasn't been through that process, but has read the law, right? And goes around the country teaching it. Don't forget, universities try to cancel me. The one in Sussex cancelled me, right? Labour areas cancelled me, right? Because they don't want me telling people the truth. This is our constitution, and especially the supremacy laws. But people need to understand it. Now, once I've said that, hopefully, and again, more and more people, don't forget we got the event on the 7th of April in Weston-super-Mare, right? Somerset. That needs to be promoted. Put it out there. We need people to get there, right? There's another event we got coming up at the end of April, and then we've got another big event coming up. And the big event coming up is in June, right? So we've got the English Constitution Society at Maplethorpe again, but for 2 days, so we can get everyone together and we'll have a proper conversation about this. But from what I'm seeing, there's people contacting Restore. They're not interested in listening to us, right? They're not interested in listening to us. They're listening to the black belt barrister who went out to China, has a Chinese wife, and he's bigging up digital ID, right? You can't make this stuff up. What would be the problem? A good CEO, right? And I've run companies, right? My own companies. A good CEO will put people in positions where their skill set lacks. They'll put them in positions, right? And say, well, we're going to listen to you. Even if you don't like everything that person's saying, there will be something that triggers in Rupert Lowe's mind that says, hang on a minute. Can you prove that? And I can say, there's a law book. And then these people around him are going to, he's got unprotected flanks, right? And it is, and our constitution is so crucially important to taking this country back. I might even, we are negotiating with them. If you want to save the union, you need to abolish, not repeal, these laws. And crucially, one of them is the British Nationality Act of 1948 that was put in place by Clement Attlee, a Fabian Prime Minister. That is a core part of the problem. It needs to be abolished. If you repeal it, all of them people still stay here. That's not what you want, right? This has already happened in our history. We abolished a similar act in 1711, and Queen Anne stepped in and said, we are abolishing, making void this law, right? And then people who was here, we went bosh straight out because we said, no, that was never law. It was bad law, and bad law cannot be law in England, right? That's what I'm trying to say to you. Make sure everyone understands that. Now, I'm going to take you back to this. I want my country back, right? And I want to make sure I'm clear on this again. We're a brotherhood of nations. It is a mindset, right? I've got nothing wrong. I've got no issues with the Scots, the Welsh, the Irish, or the Cornish, right? But they have been already captured. The same as London has been captured, right? The only way you're going to get it back and take out the regions, take out what they've done, get Middlesex back straight away, in my opinion, right, is to void the Acts of Union and go back to pure sovereignty again. And the liberties of the English, the Scots, the Irish, and the Welsh and the Cornish will come flooding back straight in. But you've got to have people who understand this stuff, right? So just making sure everyone gets that. Now, I'm going to take you back over to this because I think it's important that people see some of this. There's more that you can see. But you can see on the screen Margaret Thatcher with her little jumper on, right? She went round saying, yes, stay in, right? This whole thing from start to finish has been a communist USSR/British Fabian Nazi communist takeover of England, because England is neither. It does not allow fascism and it does not allow communism, right? It says that in the law books. You've all seen that before. I've shown it to you. We do not allow either in this country to take hold in this country. So don't forget, sharing is caring. The more you share, the more you care. Get this message out there. But one way or the other, we need to try and communicate. I want you to join Restore, right? Because for me, Restore Britain is restore the English Constitution, restore the Scottish Constitution. It's about restoring our liberties, our customs, our common law back again, right? All on board, he just doesn't want to burn his bridges too early, methinks, DD. I agree. And again, I'm not having a go at Rupert Lowe or his team. What I'm saying is they've got an unprotected flank because they've got no one who is freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and has the thought processes to read the old law books and say, listen, right, when did this change? Who gave anyone the authority to do this since the Glorious Revolution? And the answer is no one, right? Everything that subverts our constitution is ultra-vires. And people need to understand that. I'm now going to show you this because it's on the screen. I'm going to take you back to the beginning. This one's 11 minutes long. Listen carefully.
40 years ago, the choice was whether we should stay in or get out of what was called the common market. The referendum campaign was a tragicomic tale that yoked together the strangest of bedfellows.
It was rather like tiptoeing into a brothel. I mean, you felt that you were doing something which might or may not be pleasant, but was certainly rather daring.
I made a number of films about the referendum then, which have many...
I just want to let everyone know I have never tiptoed into a brothel. How does he know what it's like to tiptoe into a brothel?
Pre-echoes of what's happening today, as well as a number of startling differences. I looked a little bit different myself then.
Whether Britain stays in the common market or not depends greatly on what the 21 members of the Labour cabinet understand by the term...
Is it me or does he look like Fred West?
...renegotiation.
The Labour Prime Minister, Oxford-educated Harold Wilson, faced with an increasingly Eurosceptic party, had come up with the idea of renegotiations followed by an in-out referendum as a device for holding his party together. The cabinet was deeply divided. Roy Jenkins led the majority of centrist pro-market ministers, while the 7 left-wingers who wanted out were led by Barbara Castle and Tony Benn. Wilson now made the unprecedented decision to allow his ministers to campaign publicly against each other.
On the day the decision was taken by the cabinet, the so-called dissenting ministers got together and launched the No campaign immediately. And Wilson really was very, very angry with us. But still, we took that position and we did have that right to do it.
But behind the scenes, the Labour Europhiles had for months been secretly organising for the referendum campaign with the help of the businessman he was to become treasurer of the Conservative Party.
My family owned this hotel, the Dorchester, at that time, and so I had some sway with the management.
Politicians from the left and right, who were normally sworn political enemies, would be discreetly summoned to the Dorchester.
Somebody would telephone, say, Bill, could you come to breakfast on Tuesday morning?
You never quite knew who was going to turn up.
It was a melange of people, and who probably wouldn't have wanted to sit down together in a public restaurant. The point of the buffet was we didn't have any waiters in the room. It was completely private, confidential.
If this was where politics was going to be like, this is a very attractive way of doing things. Because I lived so much in the politics and Labour Party, I mean, you had cold rooms and soft biscuits.
What was the point of the breakfast?
Well, it was planning the strategy about who they were going to influence and how they were going to fight this campaign.
In the ballroom of the Dorchester, the Yes campaign was launched by the Labour
Conspiracy to commit treason. Basically, he's just admitted to.
Home Secretary Roy Jenkins, who shared the platform with fellow big cheeses from the Tory and Liberal parties. Jenkins repeated his pledge to resign from the government if the people voted to come out of Europe.
Yes, I stand by that statement which I made. I made it because I do not, on the whole, I do not believe it's good for British politics that people should stay in the government and carry out policies which they believe to be profoundly mistaken.
At the Dorchester, I asked Roy Jenkins, the miner's son who developed an upper-class drawl, how damaging he thought a referendum campaign would be to the unity of the Labour cabinet. He said, I really do hope this whole referendum campaign can be conducted without any wanker on either side. The campaign to get Britain out of the common market was led by the Industry Secretary Tony Benn, the public school educated man of the people who'd first come up with the idea of the referendum.
I cannot believe that we shall not win on Independence Day a huge vote for British withdrawal.
Unlike Roy Jenkins, Tony Benn refused to share a platform with members of other parties. Other leading anti-marketeers included Enoch.
Just to make sure everyone's aware of this, whether it's The Art of the Deal, The Art of War, Sun Tzu, there has to be a credible threat for the full breakup of the Union, because the people then didn't want to go in. They went in unlawfully. They're conspiring in the background against the people's wishes. The media was as corrupt then as it is now, right? There has to be a credible threat. And if there is, and all you got to say is, we'll give England, if Restore Britain was to say not just about the death penalty, right, which at least gives us half a crack with treason, right? If they was to give us a referendum to say, do you want to stay do you want to avoid the Acts of Union? And we're out of all international agreements, we're out of all of it, and we rebuild our country, I will guarantee you the English will say yes. 95% turnout. The English will say yes.
Enoch Powell, whom Tony Benn had called a racist, and Dr. Ian Paisley. This mixed bag played into the hands of the pro-European strategy.
Unreliable people, dangerous people. Don't take their advice. You know, they'll lead you down the wrong path. The whole thrust of this campaign wasn't so much that it was sensible to stay in, but that it was complete madness to come out. And anybody who proposed that we came out was off their rocker or virtually Marxist.
As the opinion polls start to turn against the anti-marketeers, Tony Benn decides to up the ante. He uses his authority as industry minister to make a headline-grabbing claim about the effects of our membership on the economy.
Is 500,000 jobs lost and a huge increase in food prices at a stroke caused by the common market.
I'm afraid I find it increasingly difficult to take Mr. Benn seriously as an economic minister, in which this technique, in which you just think of a number and double it, and if challenged, you pretend you haven't been challenged and you just react by thinking up some new claim.
Fleet Street was united in depicting Ben as the bogeyman of the No campaign.
You became this kind of demon figure in the campaign, and it was...
Who did that? The media did it. Nothing to do with the personal. It was all the party leaders, all the money, and all the newspaper proprietors were determined to get a yes vote and destroy anyone who took a contrary view. Full stop.
The cartoonists were in no doubt that Ben's motivation was to replace Harold Wilson as Prime Minister.
Generally speaking, the media was very strongly in favour of staying in. I think there were only 3 papers that were in favour of coming out. One was the Spectator, one was the Daily Worker, one I think was the Dundee Herald.
Right, well let's put some...
In 1975, John Mills was one of the organisers of the No campaign, setting up meetings across the country, a job he'll be doing again in the current referendum.
The campaign we ran was really run on a shoestring compared with the Rolls-Royce effort on the other side.
Money rolled in. I mean, it was very exciting. The banks put in very large sums of money.
And the big industrial companies?
Oh, yes, they came in with very big sums of money. And they actually raised about twice as much money as we spent.
And how easy was it?
Terribly easy.
Alistair McAlpine was working for the newly elected Conservative leader Margaret Thatcher, who'd beaten Ted Heath, the man who'd taken us into Europe. As the Conservatives for Europe launched their campaign, the old and new leader appeared together in public for the first time.
Naturally, it's with some temerity that the pupil speaks before the master, because you know more about it than any of the rest of us.
Margaret Thatcher's view about Britain's place in Europe then could be summed up in 3 words. Yes, yes, yes.
I think it's absolutely vital that everyone should turn out in this referendum and vote yes, so that the question is over once and for all. We are really in Europe and ready to go ahead.
Passionately opposed to Margaret Thatcher over Europe was the Labour firebrand Barbara Castle, who'd long been tipped to become Britain's first woman Prime Minister. As the campaign neared its climax with a debate at the Oxford Union, Mrs. Castle was up against 2 of the most senior Europhiles, Ted Heath and the Liberal leader, Jeremy Thorpe.
They lured us into the market with the mirage of the market miracle.
Holding these views as passionately and sincerely as she does, may we assume that if the vote is yes, she would not stay on to administer those policies as a minister?
If the vote goes yes, my country will need me to save it.
Tonight, for the first time in this referendum campaign, Labour Minister meets Labour Minister to discuss the arguments for and against Britain's continued membership of the Common
Listen to this. I said a moment ago, in a sense that we must give up some of our political liberty in order to enjoy
some
this...
of our political sovereignty, which is a quite different matter. Pool our sovereignty.
Well,
no question of giving up liberty at all.
Well,
please
give up the liberty.
Don't put words like that.
But cut the umbilical cord that links the lawmakers with the people, and you destroy the stability of this country.
You are asking the British people now
to destroy
take
democracy.
a terribly disruptive decision,
to destroy
at a time of
parliamentary
great
democracy.
fragility for the British economy, and to subject themselves to great dangers in the future.
We want a jump-up parade. Come on, we want a jump-up parade.
On the eve of the referendum, Mrs. T's jumper featured the flags of the 9 common market countries.
They're tall, the girls these days. They're all taller than I. You're not too worried. I like this torch.
She was lighting a torch for peace in Europe, with the Yes campaign claiming that after 2 world wars, only a unified Europe with Britain a member could prevent further wars.
Right, so I'm going to stop it there because the Conservative Party, Conservative and Union Party, with a major war going on with Russia and Ukraine, it was Boris Johnson that went out there and stopped the peace deal, right? It was Boris Johnson that did that, right? So just listen to what they're saying about major wars and all that, right? We was advised time and time again, even General de Gaulle at the time, at this time, right, did not want Britain as an island with separate nations inside the European Union. He knew we were not compatible with that. They understood that they needed a bit of help to stop fighting each other, but he understood who we was.
One of our posters was precisely this. It's better to lose a little sovereignty than to lose a son and a daughter. This was hard-hitting argument based, looking backwards, and on all the casualties.
On Thursday, reassert the right to rule ourselves.
Vote no.
The votes were counted in vast arenas in 67 regions of the UK.
And it's beginning to look as if we may not have a single no counting area in Britain itself.
On a high turnout, the people voted by 2 to 1 for Britain to stay in the common market.
Area so far has come really very near.
Triumphant Roy Jenkins was later to say that he'd so enjoyed working with like-minded Conservatives and Liberals in the referendum campaign that he decided to form a new breakaway Social Democratic Party, the SDP. It split the Labour Party and helped keep the Tories in power for nearly 2 decades. Tony Benn was demoted in the cabinet, but over the following 40 years, his continued stoking of public disillusion with Brussels, along with the spread of Tory Euroscepticism, led to a fresh in-out referendum. So for me, it's déjà vu all over again.
So again, all I'm doing, there is another one. If I showed it to you, I'm not sure which one it is. I'll bring it up again and see if you can see it. It might be that one. It could be one further up here. Let's have a look. No, I can't see it there. But there was another video I wanted to show you, and everyone should go and have a read of this or a watch of it, which is the Fabian Society and Eugenics to Plan for Britain. All right, and everyone should go and watch that. I've put a couple of comments on it already. If you can find the comments and like them and have a chat to him, it would be a good thing. They all work together like the, Jellyton, you're right. Yep, absolutely. There's loads of messages coming through and I'm grateful for all the messages. I do try and read them. The main thing is that I am extremely worried about Restore Britain. I support Restore Britain. I support Rupert Lowe. As long as you're not attacking the working class, I want the working class and the middle class to come together against the regime, the British regime, right? My personal opinion is you're not going to solve this problem unless you come out. You void the acts of union, and it's got to be the English that do it. We have never had our own national referendum, not once, right? He needs to talk to Gerard Batten in reference to English nationalism and understand why UKIP was set up and why UKIP was pushed forward by Nigel Farage. We could have been out if the Scots had voted to leave the Union would have been dead, right? As long as it wasn't repealed, it was made void for being in bad faith, which it is. We would have been out of every international treaty, every one of them. Even the situation in the Middle East would have been easier to deal with because you could say, well, there is no legal basis. The Balfour Agreement, the Palestinian Mandate of 1923, the Petition of 1948, all being given, if you want, legal authority by the British Union is gone. Right, there is no British Parliament anymore. Right, and the English would say no. we need to resolve that in a different way. They need to come out of that area, right, for there to be world peace. There's other issues I can talk about, which is desalination plants, the water crisis, and there is a water crisis in terms of that area. But a major problem for me is that Restore Britain, which to me means restore England, restore its constitution, is not talking to someone like me, right? And again, I don't wear rose-tinted glasses in looking at the police or any of the institutions. I'm not associated with them, and I've got no skin in the game with them institutions that are all the products. The people within them institutions are products and have been misinstructed and indoctrinated by state education. If you look at someone like Lord Denning, he went to a grammar school. He didn't go to a private school. He didn't go to Eton, right? That's my issue. Is their flanks are wide open, and especially to the level of skullduggery that's going to go on in the background, and especially from the people that they have as advisors. That's what worries me. It worries me from the point of view, there ain't a second chance with this. This country is gone. And when I say this country, I mean England is gone. He's got the option, like he says, of pissing off to Monaco. I've got to be honest with you. I think it's going to go so badly pear-shaped that anyone who isn't out now already and in safe areas like Thailand, Texas, in the USA, etc., you're going to be banging trouble unless we get this right. So that's the bit that I was looking at. There is a little bit more I wanted to show you, but it may go on too long, so I won't. But tell me, I want a bit of feedback on this, and I certainly want people. We've got to get the seminars at least once a month. I don't mind once my bank's repaired, twice a month. I mean, if I could get it up to once a week, getting out to these places. The English Constitution Society, so it's not political, it's purely educational. And we can show people, listen, you do have a written constitution. You do have constitutional rights. You have common law rights. This is England. And that's what we got to take back. But it's people have got to have passion to do it. I can start to see that some of these people in the background could be operating against the interests within Restore Britain of England. And that concerns me. Some of them are malicious and some of them are not. Some of them are just misinstructed. So I'm not having a go at the team, right? I get what Rupert Lowe believes about his team, and to a large extent I agree, but he needs to listen to external voices from the British regime that have not been misinstructed by the slow march through the institutions and the university state education system. Are we all in agreement with that? Give me an English flag if you're in agreement with that. And again, if you look at places like, let me see if I can pull this up. If you look at places like, get an English flag. I can't see any English flags out there. Let's see if I can see some English flags. There's the English flags all popping up on the screen here. I've just put it up there so when everyone sees it. Don't forget, Rumble allowed us to have English flags on here. They completely respected that England is a nation. YouTube doesn't do that. It won't allow English flags. Right. So on your screen at the moment, you are seeing the English flags on Rumble. Anyone on Rumble should on YouTube should be coming over to Rumble. So again, I need everyone to like. I need everyone to subscribe, and most importantly, I need people to share. If you think you can cut little bits out of this and send it to Restore, then please do so. I will be in a week, hopefully, dressing up and doing a little video so everyone understands and we can put these clips out to people. I'm not having a go at his team directly. I'm not having a go at him directly. What I'm saying is I am very concerned that this is going to go pear-shaped because of the type of people that are counselling Rupert Lowe and his team. It's as simple as that. And you've only got to read the Bill of Rights preamble to find out that judges, privy councillors, etc., was misinstructing the king, which is why we got to a new settlement for the Protestants, because we were disarmed and we were under attack by Jesuits, right? Largely the Jesuits. It wasn't at that time, it wasn't the Mohammedans, it was the Jesuits. But again, people need to understand all that. That's it. Are you all happy with that? I'm going to take that off the screen at the moment. I'm seeing loads of English flags come up there. When people see what it is, and again, you can also see that we support the Brotherhood of Nations. That is what we believe in. Bad actors giving advice. That's exactly it. Bad actors giving advice. So everyone's just sent that out there. Don't forget, we've got the seminar coming up. Let me see if I can bring it up on the screen. I'm not sure if this is going to go pear-shaped again, but if not, hopefully. Fabian's good short video. That's it. That's the one you want to put out there. Someone is just telling me that I've disappeared. As long as everyone... Yeah, sometimes the screen goes off. Your screen has gone black. Can you see the video, but not you? Yeah, that's all right. Don't worry. I need to bring this up for everyone to understand. I'm waiting for a couple of messages to come back from people at the moment, but they're not coming back to me. Let me put this one up there. Again, I just want so if anyone, so you can screenshot this. I'm hoping it's already on the website. It should be on the website. Let me put this out there. This one is going to be on the screen as we speak, touch wood. Let me just bring that up and then bring it back down. So the English Constitution Society, English Constitutional Common Law Seminar, discover your inalienable and constitutional rights, what they are, why they matter, and how the state is working to take them away. Find out what you can do to protect your freedoms before it's too late. Everyone welcome, 7 p.m. Qstoke Village Hall, Crooks Lane, Qstoke, Weston-super-Mare, BS 22 9XJ, Tuesday the 7th of April 2026. £10 on the door. Any larger donations, if you can't afford it, again, it's a donation. But we do have to try and fund these and fund the English Constitution Society. You just watched the video where McAlpine said that the big banks and all these people, it was easy. The money just flooded in from large corporations, etc., because it was to their benefit, not to the people's benefit. And there it is on the bottom of the screen. Self-determination is the #1 human right. And what we'll do now is I'll go over to the next one. There's another one on your screen as we speak. English Constitution Society. Everyone welcome. At £10 on the door. Qstoke Village Hall again. Crooks Lane, Qstoke, Weston-super-Mare, BS 22 9XJ. Self-determination is the #1 human right. And again, we've got all the nations in there. England, Wales, Northern Ireland as an independent nation, Scotland, Cornwall and Ireland, right? What we're saying is just take the countries back from communists. And if you don't do that, we've got a major issue. That's it. Good night. God bless to everyone. Hopefully you will all tune in tomorrow night. So Tuesday night, I will be live at 8 o'clock. There's a few things I'm going to go through tomorrow night. But we need to be promoting as much as possible the English Constitution and the common law seminars, right? They're going to be crucial. And don't forget the event that we've got coming up in June. It's a 2-day event. It's all on the English Constitution Society's website. There's accommodation there which you have to book. The Dunes Complex is not. It's a venue. It's a bar. You can get food there. It's got a massive stage. It's really comfortable for all of us. It's right on the beach. It's going to be a lovely 2 days. That's in June, and the second day of the event, we're going to be talking about different things and having a bit of interaction, and we'll be doing the English. I'll be talking about the English Constitution Party and what we're going to be doing and what we can do to support Rupert Lowe and Restore Britain. But you people need to contact him and contact them. I also understand if you're not getting contacted at the moment, they are possibly inundated with the amount of people saying we've had enough of this now, right? But someone somewhere needs to go back and look at history and say, listen, this has all happened before, and this is how we dealt with it. We can see that we was all shafted in 1971 and 1972 when we got the European Communities Act of 1972, which is ultra-vires. It was against the English Bill of Rights and the Supremacy Clause. They did take our liberties. They did take our freedoms. They did take our sovereignty, and we need to take it all back. That's it. And again, I've still got to sort out my accommodation for Mablethorpe. But there you go. That's it. Good night. God bless. Don't forget what I believe in. The Constitution is the solution, right? If we restore the Constitution, we restore England. And that's what we're looking for.